Good morning and welcome to the July 13th, 2024 meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. I am President Kathy Wells. I come from the Downtown Neighborhood Association. Our guest speaker today, who will also meet other commitments and be with us only a short time, is the mayor, Frank Scott, and our big topic is the sales tax proposal. And we have the word that on the Tuesday agenda, July 16th, he is proposing the city board call the election for the 1 cent sales tax increase. So it is upon us. We wanted to find out today what people were hearing in their networks, what your own take on this revision is. I hope you got that, as well as the original. And there is a text narrative describing the changes between the two. And you should be thinking about how that impacts you. And we want to continue with our custom of going around the table and introducing everyone. So Blake, tell us your name and your neighborhood association. Good stuff.
All right. Hi everybody, Blake Tierney. I am with the Downtown Neighborhood Association. I am also a candidate for at-large city director position 10.
I am Chloe Chapman. I'm here representing our Little Rock. We're a citywide civic group helping folks understand people-oriented places and trying to provide the tools to enable that.
Hi, I am Anita Claiborne, and I am the president of Petaway Neighborhood Association, and I am here to give info. Thank you.
I'm Robert Walker. I live in Temple Eastern Station Neighborhood Association region, and that's Ward 3, which is Kathleen Webb. And thank you for your turn.
Hi, Norman Hodges. I'm president of the Heights Neighborhood Association and a member of the Little Rock Planning Commission.
Rip Weaver with the Downtown Little Rock Neighborhood Association, Ward 1.
Hi, Denise Leeson. I live in the Central High neighborhood.
Mary Henthorne, Ward 4.
Introduce yourself, dear.
Jan Baker, sitting down, Ward 4.
Ron, introduce yourself. Handouts.
I'm timing now. I need to read them out.
We'll come back to
Ron Hughes, founder of Forest Hills Neighborhood Association. It is a 300-house home here. Forest Hills. We've been in place for 39 years.
That's a nice long run. We have two signing in. Mary, can you just direct the camera to them and invite the lady and the gentleman to tell us your name?
I'm Marge Jernigan, Ward 4.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Larry Hicks from the Little Rock NAACP.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Virgil Miller. I'm on the Little Rock City Board of Directors, Ward 1.
Welcome. We appreciate your faithful attendance at our meetings. You're a great resource and a conduit to our concerns to officialdom. Let me just ask you to take a moment here to look at the text page that the city's put out to explain the changes between the original budget for the sales tax and the revised budget. They went up on public safety vehicles, street resurfacing. They went down on the public facilities fund. The general parks fund, $2.5 million. Trails maintenance, $1 million. $500,000 on the senior center and $750,000 on the downtown redevelopment. They then shifted $9 million to capital. They were making up the operating ongoing 3/8 column and the 5/8 sunset after 10 years column on these proposed taxes. It appears from the agenda they have although information is forthcoming and posted on the city website, that we are looking at a single vote for a 5-inch capital proposal and a separate ballot issue for a 3/8 ongoing. One of the issues that we do want to ask the mayor when he is here is about the idea of separating the categories. One of the very successful elections that has occurred in this city over the years was called 12 Votes for Little Rock. And so you had parks separate from public safety, separate from streets and drainage, separate from item. And that's a very good policy question that I think we would like him to address here today. Because we only had him for 30 minutes, shoehorned into his schedule, we need to be trying to be very thoughtful about what other questions we would like to present to him. So let's start writing down our list of questions. Does somebody else have a question ready to go beyond the separate ballot issues?
How far spread would that be if he could do what he wished to do, the mayor?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
How far spread would he have to initiate this money? Where would he place it within our city?
Where he would place it within the city, the big category remains at 46% instead of 47% on the budget list. On this posting on the city website about where the parks would be, and they name the parks, they name the indoor sports complex, the new one for $60 million, they name the outdoor sports complex, they name the new one for $60 million. Now those do not have specific addresses. They have indicated that the indoor sports complex would be adjacent to that green space left when they removed the downtown ramp, which we think of as the ramp or the interstate park in downtown Central Business District. But we don't have it, I think, precisely oriented. Do you know, Virgil, if they've got an address for that indoor location?
No, we're waiting on specifics. That's, quite frankly, one of the things that a lot of people are asking about, specifically where these parks will go. And so I think that's going to be some information, again, is forthcoming. If you look at the agenda that's on the city's website for our meeting Tuesday, there are 5 additions to the agenda. The first item, M1, is to state the use in certain operations and capital sales and compensating use tax funds upon approval of both levies by the voters at an election to be held November 5th, 2024, and for other purposes. Information forthcoming. M2, to levy a 3/8 cents sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for general operation purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1st, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election and for other purposes. M3, again, that's information forthcoming on that. M3, ordinance, information forthcoming on this, to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for November 5th, 2024, on the question whether to levy a 3/8 cent sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for general operation purposes, to provide that that levy shall commence on January 1st, 2025, and for other purposes. M4 ordinance, again, information forthcoming, to levy a 5/8 cents sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, which will expire at the end of 10 years on December 31st, 2034, and will be used for capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1st, 2025, to prescribe other matters that pertain to the election and for other purposes. And then M5, ordinance, again, information forthcoming, to call a special election in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas for November 5th, 2024 on the question whether to levy a 5/8 cent sales and compensating use tax within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to be used for capital purposes, to provide that the levy shall commence on January 1st, 2025, and will expire on December 31st, 2034, and for other purposes. Certainly, if you're familiar with how these things work, there will be a first reading. Of course, rules can be suspended and can be placed on second reading. After that's read, the rules can again be suspended and placed on a third and final reading, and then the question could be asked, called. So someone's going to have to, at the board, put this on first reading. If it goes, you can put it on second reading. If that passes, it can be put on third reading, and it can actually be voted on Tuesday. I think, again, information forthcoming is the thing that I think board members want to see, and I'm sure you as residents of the city want to see. Hopefully, we were pressing to try to get this before Tuesday. It is our wish always to try to get information ahead of time. It is tough to get the information at the board meeting at 6 o'clock and then have to go through it. And then these questions, if questions come up, then have to ask the questions then. So hopefully, maybe we can get it today sometime, maybe Sunday or maybe Monday, so that we would have it. I'm talking about from my standpoint, I'd like to have it before Tuesday.
Well, now, isn't there an allowance of time here that we should keep in mind? The statute says that you must call an election 60 days before the date. Now for, let's see, is it November 5th?
November 5th.
So we count back to August the 5th is the drop dead day that the board would need to act.
That's correct.
To put something on the November ballot.
That's correct.
So we have time between now and August the 5th to get this information out and to ponder it and then to react to it and urge our city officials and leaders to take action as we hope they will take action.
Certainly, but as you think about that, there has to be a campaign put together. And so I think we're running out of runway in order to mount a campaign. Certainly you want to get this called and get this passed so that you can then begin to campaign for this. We all know, let's certainly be candid here, that there will be opposition. There will be a campaign against. Generally, what happens is that then that's going to maybe sway votes. So you're right, Kathy, as it relates to when this has to be called for and put on, approved by the board in order for the citizens then to have a chance to vote on these items. But when you think about trying to put together a campaign, the sooner you can start campaigning, the better, because, again, there will be opposition. Let's face it. There'll be a certain percentage of people that aren't going to vote for a tax. I don't care if it's for stray dogs, homeless, single mothers. I mean, you name it.
My personal check?
It's
Yeah, I think it's 25% in the poll world that you can expect to be voting against any proposed tax.
So, I mean,
and they turn out. That's a voting reliable number.
So your information is correct as far as when we have to do this. And so this will be a first reading. I'm sure there'll be pressure to put it on second reading, and it'll be pressure to put it on third reading to try to get this thing done by Tuesday so campaign can start.
Even though we seem to be lacking important specifics, how can you campaign on buy a pig in a poke? I'm sorry, just to use an old political phrase.
Well, what we're looking at, I mean, when you see this is on the website. Of course, I'm looking at the agenda, pull it off the website. We generally get it on Friday. And when it says information forthcoming, that's what we expect, information forthcoming. And so I think a lot of people want to have the information. Certainly we would like to read it before Tuesday, but we'll get it on Tuesday. We can't say that we haven't been discussing this. We've been discussing it for weeks. We've had a lot of public meetings, but certainly when things begin to be revised, and that's what what Kathy's printed off here, there are certain revisions. People just want to know, well, at the end of the day, what's the final thing going to look like? And then I think a lot of people want to know specifically where are these items going to go as far as sports complexes are concerned. So that's sort of what we're looking at.
Yes, I just have one question. What is that website that we're supposed to?
It would be littlerock.gov.
Spelled out Little Rock?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you go to the government selection all that submenu.
Okay.
And then what drops down is a series of departments, and board of directors is where you go next, and then you look at agenda.
Okay.
So those successive menu statements get you to where he is. Oh, yes, Norman.
Kathy, did you say 60 or 90 days before the
60 days.
Well, that would be September, wouldn't it?
You know what? I got it wrong. You're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, it is.
September to October, November. Yes, it would be September the 5th. That would be the drop dead deadline.
When you say August, though, when you look at when city board meets.
Oh, I understood that. I was just trying to.
But yeah, well, I mean, we have agenda meeting, then we have board meeting, agenda meeting, board meeting. So if you cut it that close, and that's why I think the mayor really wants to try to get this done in August, sooner than later, because if we start then coming close to that September cutoff, what can happen? Maybe some board members are out. Maybe something happens. I mean, obviously we can call for a special election, but when you
There's
cut
limits to those these days.
I mean, when you cut it that close, Norman, that's why the August is, because the board only meets, board meetings are only twice a month.
Right.
Agenda meetings are, twice a month. So when you start getting into August, and then you look at September 5th, when's the board meeting? So you will be cutting it extremely close, and anything can happen. You want to have your quorum there. You want to have board members there. You want to have bodies there that can take this action. But if you wait until the very end, and again, also, it's the campaign. You want to start campaigning 60 days out? You want to try to get this thing done now. So that's why, it's being pushed for August. But you are right as far as the specific time that you have to do it by law.
I think what might be useful in the short time frame we've got, tell me if you think this would be good to do, is I'll just ask for a show of hands of folks who want to, know more specifics, who would want separate ballot votes, and anything else that we come up to ask about. Does that sound like a good way to communicate with the mayor fast? Quick and dirty, as we say, the advocates were. What other questions might we want a show of hands for? We've got two things here.
Kathy?
Yes.
This may have been discussed previously. The enterprise resource planning system, the second item from the bottom, why is that not part of IT.
Let me see if I got a question answered about 43.
I mean, I
Oh,
realize
what they
it's-
told me when I asked about that is that this is a software program used in financial systems.
IT.
Well, apparently it weights to financial, not IT.
But it,
HR, it's a software program, but it's used for HR,
well,
finance.
it's enterprise-wide. It's not just, if you have facilities, it helps with facility management. ERPs can do,
Maybe nobody's heard that at City Hall. You might want to mention that.
well, I suppose it depends on what variety you purchase, or what components you purchase.
Because it's a selection off the menu type of thing.
So we have one at
Probably.
my work, and our HR department uses it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a technical thing, they have an outsourced company that works on it. So
Mhm.
maybe that's why they're not including it.
I don't know, but they're usually, now they're cloud-based.
I think
And,
it's a new word for a podium.
well, these are.
No, don't go there. No. But it may be that they're just buying the financial category as opposed to the wider things that you've just referred to. Whether they know they are there to choose is a good question.
That's possible. And I realize that this is not one of the more significant items on the budget.
But it's an example of we want details. And if you'll remember, I was doing this for you folks.
Mm-hmm.
You had it, this goes back to May 15th.
My apologies.
So, track back to my message to you. Pretty sure it was an attachment to an email of May 15th or thereafter. And I had one that was dated May 13th. So this got even more answers than was on May 13th. So we have really been pursuing questions, and we have gotten a fair number of replies out of the mayor and others at City Hall. I didn't print out all of the separate items, but there still remains that. And the big question, of course, is, are the revisions adequate? Because I think a lot of us heard about not enough for streets and drainage. And when you look at that number, it goes from 19% up to 21%. It goes from 126 million to 134 million. Plus your operations per year goes from 4 million to 4 million 8. Would you consider that to be enough with everything we're hearing about the expense of one city block cost? And of course, drainage programs are through the roof, and none of those can be adequately counted until your engineers are really told to go out there and figure out, cover it over another section of Swaggity Branch, which I saw was one of the plans. That goes along Martin Luther King for you folks, and has been a lifetime's trouble of an open ditch there little kids drowned in during the flooding, and really needs to be covered over all the way. Anyway, sorry, good example of trouble that needs to be addressed. Yes, Jan, and then yes, Robert.
I guess I have a question. The indoor sports complex, I went to the meetings with the Downtown Little Rock Master Plan. I don't remember that sports complex being part of the master plan ever until they revised it before they went to the board of directors for approval or after. And suddenly, that indoor sports complex is part of the Downtown Little Rock Master Plan. What?
Are you sure about that? I don't think they ever incorporated it.
No, it
Did they
doesn't.
finally do that?
They
Yes.
dropped in option 1 and 2, so they did drop it.
At the last minute. Okay. Good to know.
Well, we had all those public comments, and I don't remember that anybody publicly commented on, we need an indoor sports complex down in the middle of the I-30 whatever new park that's supposed to draw people to the river, not to a sports complex to play basketball. And now suddenly that is a $60 million outlay for a building plopped down in the middle of what should have been outdoor green space.
No, I don't think it's going to be over any green space. It's going to be
no, I
tucked
mean-
in beside it.
Well, I mean, but the whole
Physically?
idea was green space, outdoor green space living, moving to the river, using the river as a draw for people to come to, not come park your car and go play sports inside a building. What changed? I know it was I asked where was it, but the mayor had said in some public meetings at the at the UU Church that was part of the downtown master plan, and it wasn't, and then suddenly now it is when it went for a vote. I just was wondering what the politics was, and then my second question is you're taking $500,000 from the senior center and pickleball courts on line item 17, and what is going to be struck in the $500,000? What are you going to get rid of? Pickleball courts? You're going to do this fantastic kitchen. You were doing the little, what I call a hot tub plus. Not really a swimming pool, I call it.
It's like a therapy pool, right?
Yeah,
Therapy pool.
yeah,
It has a current to it, so it's narrow, and then you swim against the current. They did give me that detail.
Which you don't get a bunch of people into one of those things. You
No.
just get, one at a time. I'm just asking, so what's going to be taken out of that line item 17? And how did the indoor sports complex suddenly appear in the downtown Little Rock master plan with no comment from the general public to get that in there?
You have an answer for that one, Virgil?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that completely, but the downtown master plan, as you know, was the 8-month citizen planning process. It has to go before the board to get approved. That is on the agenda for Tuesday to accept the downtown master plan. Obviously, we had some questions about that. How much would it cost to implement everything? I don't know if present something and then maybe you can implement parts of it. But we were told that it could cost maybe about $300 million over a period of time to implement that. I think, again, it did contemplate a regional sports complex in the plan now as it was tweaked. That is a good question, but again, it was discussed, then put in the plan. As you know, this downtown master plan has been tweaked a few times, but it's on the agenda now to accept it. You paid $750,000 to have this plan done, and it has been generally well received because people want to know what are you going to do with your downtown. I mean, everybody, your downtown, of course, is your heartbeat of your city. That's your heart of the city. It's everybody's entertainment district. It's, everybody's, dining district. It's, people come to visit your house and say, where do you want to go? Well, let's go downtown. So it's something that I think we really want to see and really want to use the river. But again, there's some questions about specifically where would the indoor sports complex go. So, I mean, I think that is a question that probably really needs to be answered. People want to know that. And so is it downtown? Is it West Little Rock? Is it going to be in Southwest Little Rock? Where's it going to be? And so, again, we've had people make presentations at the board meeting about a regional sports complex and the economic benefit of it. Of course, I had 4 daughters. I can't tell you how many softball regional tournaments I've driven to Benton and Bryan and Cabot for, and how much money I've spent in those areas. So you may think about this as this sports complex, but really it's economic development in my mind when I think about it. So I want to be clear, I'm going to vote to accept the master plan Tuesday, and certainly I am for the sales tax. I certainly think it needs to go before you as the voters to vote it up or down. So I'm going to vote for that, and I support it because I know we need funds. But specifics, I mean, those are some of the questions. I mean, information forthcoming. That's a legitimate question. And so please ask these questions. I think it's extremely important.
Two information points. Thanks to Virgil, we were able to get that presentation circulated on our network, so you all had it in an email from me, thanks to Virgil, of the presentation that was made to the board about sports tourism, about the economic development benefits of these indoor and outdoor complexes. And it's very, very much oriented to the economic development benefits of the thing. And the other thing is, there was, at the master plan presentation to the board, the clear statement, I was just looking at that, and a week ago now, it was impossible to tell what the cost would be. You were pressing for that. And so now we have a downtown master plan of many items, which clearly have no better price tag than a single dollar sign, 2 signs, 3 signs, or $4 signs for the expensive stuff. But the planner, Sasaki Company, firmly, publicly, repeatedly declined to say you should expect to spend X dollars on anything. And then this last minute addition to the plan comes in, and we have a price tag. We got $60 million. So that's the one thing that we would say, if it's going through the system, that is being funded and being funded up front. And so that suggests a question about choosing what you do fund or not fund. Well, I'm talking now about the downtown master plan stuff.
Which incorporates in line item 14.
That's right. But I'm saying this badly. And we've had that $60 million known for some time, but when it moves from like a separate standing line item to incorporating it in the master plan, then what else is in the master plan? How do you line up all of the potential off the selection menu? And you have now weighted that choosing and that selection process to the indoor sports complex, which you should be thinking about. Is that a good way to go? Is that a good way to work on the plan? Or is it that having tossed it into the master plan, everything else is going to come next and second place and behind it? Simply by virtue of the fact that it has been out there, it has got a number to it. It might be voted separately, assuming that the tax passes. Nothing else, well, I take that back. Earlier I had asked what in the master plan was in this list, and there were 5 items, funded from different sources, by the way, not the master plan. So this, once again, comes very late, because at the time I got that, I think a month ago, and once again, there's an email out there where I'm saying, here's the answer to what's in the master plan and the sales tax proposal. They plan to put it here, but they plan to basically draw it from other funding sources. Virgil, do you remember about that a little bit? For example, the downtown parking decks. That's assigned to the master plan, but they were going to come up with some ongoing source of money for that, as I recall.
Some operations funds. I mean, some of this.
Exactly, in the River Market renovation.
And
so they were labeled the one, but they were funded from ongoing plans, shall we say.
Yeah, and
so we're sifting this out.
And as it relates to what the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau is wanting to do, that there was some discussion about maybe having a refinancing of those bonds happen on November 5th. As you can see, that is no longer on the table. That may be going towards maybe an election, separate election in May. or so, but that's not being contemplated for November 5th, which, quite frankly, maybe makes sense to me from a banking standpoint. Maybe federal funds rate will be lowered a couple of times by then, and then certainly when you start to ask the voters to take a look at that, what's going to happen with our amphitheater, how you're going to make the improvements there, how you make improvements to the river market, that is done with hamburger tax money or the Little Rock Convention Business Bureau. And so I think it's smart of them to take a look at that and be able to give us more specifics. You probably want to know, how is the rate lowered? If you refinancing your house, you don't want to refinance at a higher rate. So I think they have some questions to probably answer there and give us some more specifics. So I think it's smart, and you're clouding up the November 5th with a lot of questions. And so I think that can confuse a lot of people. So that's not going to go forward. But funds for some of that renovation will be done by Convention and Business Bureau, not with this, not with our sales tax.
Director, I want to ask you a question. Could there be consideration of a public-private entity whereby some of the costs that would go into revitalizing downtown Little Rock would be utilized in order to offset the costs that would really come to bear on taxpayers?
Absolutely. That's what happens in most cities, and all cities. There is, the public sector can't do it by itself. And so there are, private developers that come forward. Perfect example of what happened already in our River Market district. The condominiums, the River Market Tower, 300 Tower, that was private developers that did that. And so we look for that. Quite frankly, we have to have that. So there will be, in the master plan, talk about an implementation committee that will look at this every day. That will be their job. Whether that entity is going to be the Downtown Little Rock Partnership and a certain committee of that will include at least the city manager and also maybe a board member. If you looked at the board meeting and talking about the Ward 1 representative, the Ward 1 representative wants to go to neighborhood meetings. There are some other people that can probably do that. But there will be an implementation committee. They will look for public-private partnerships, just as all the examples that what they've done in other cities that we looked at. That's an excellent point. So that is definitely a yes to that.
The second part of it is that the $750,000 that was appropriated in order to try and gauge whether there's enough public support of this plan. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I understood them at one point to say that they interviewed 100 people in order to be able to make what they believe to be a sound assessment in terms of redevelopment. Is that true?
I don't know if that number is correct. It was 8 months of meetings. So it was, I would have to say, without the data backing me up that I can go to, it was way more than 100 people that participated in that. There were several surveys that were done. And of course, that those funds were paid for through the American Rescue Plan funds to put this together. But I just, Sticks, I would definitely say, and I can do some research on this, I can get that information from Sasaki, but it had to be way more than 100 people that participated in the planning for this.
Okay, and the third one is can this be pared down in terms of the relevancy of things needed in order to revitalize downtown Little Rock? Because I'm probably older than most in this room, but I can remember in the early 70s downtown Little Rock was extremely active and had a lot of activity all the time. And then there was a period of malaise that kind of took over for a period of 10 to 20 years, and no one paid attention to that. And now we're in the stages of having to revitalize it, but the longer we wait, the greater cost is always going to be incurred in that respect. So to that end, is it possible to be able to look at this and then pare it down to having the taxpayers decide what is the most significant features of revitalization that we need, as opposed to an indoor facility here and a golf course there and all those kinds of things at the present moment versus the actual needs?
That's where the separate votes comes in, Mr. Hicks. Do you remember the 12 votes for Little Rock campaign of years ago?
Yes.
So if you just looked at the budget we've got today, and you imagine that your ballot in November shows these categories, you would have that kind of ability to pick and choose off the menu.
Okay.
Which is what I think a great many folks in my network would like to see, is that ability to pick and choose.
I think that would be useful.
So you might want to put that out in your network.
Yeah, and I think the implementation committee is going to really be taking a look at that. I think it's, quite frankly, I think it's great that we have, that we're going to adopt this master plan, because we've tried several things, thrown several things up on the wall. Of course, I'm sure most people in this room remember the Metro Mall, where we blocked off Capitol and had that mall down there. And I mean, you guys probably remember that. Yeah. And so there's been...
Welcome, Mayor Scott.
Hey, how are you?
We know you're on a short clock. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
No, let the director.
He was reminiscing about the Metro Center Mall, which turned pedestrian Main Street, and that didn't prove out to be a really long-term success. So we've been trying to respect your time limited with us, and we wanted to prepare a couple of questions.
I hope it shows how much I care about you and how much I care about this organization, because I moved around 15 different things, but it's time to be here for you.
Well, I am grateful.
When you call.
Thank you.
Make sure you are.
Anyway, so to distill it down, and we're going to state a policy proposal, and then we're going to ask for a show of hands, because I think that gets it told to you in the quickest way possible.
Show of hands on it.
One of the things we're really interested in is the notion of separate ballot votes instead of one item for capital and one item for operating costs, or simply the 2 votes on the November ballot. Could we get that repeat of the 12 votes for Little Rock with the different categories? We're based on it. And so we wanted to ask for a show of hands. How many of you folks would like to see that?
Before you say that, the city attorney already told me we can't do that. That's what I'm trying to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Do we know why? We did it before.
That wasn't done in 2011.
I didn't say it was. It was earlier.
There's some legislative stuff, the city attorney has told us that.
Well, by golly, we now know the answer to that.
That's every sales tax election that's happened, whether it be bond millage, in recent history. I don't know what happened in the 80s or the 90s.
It was 90s.
So some legislative stuff that happened based on my understanding from the city attorney that it's only, maybe bond villages can do that, but not for a sales tax election. It's up or down, 5/8 or 3/4. And I have no problem with doing it like that either, and because history shows that if the people want the sales tax, everything's going to end up being passed anyway if it's separated out. So there's no issue with that. I'm just based on the city attorney.
Well, asked and answered, as we say.
So that's why I didn't want
that's what's important.
State code is what you're talking about?
Based on our city attorney, he's not here.
State election law, it appears.
State election. A lot of stuff, you got to remember, a lot of state election laws changed in Arkansas since 2008. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
And again, I I'll double back, but that's based on, that's the reason why it wasn't done in 2011. That's why it hasn't been done in any of the bond villages. But I will go back and, again, that's what was told to us, because I have no issue with it being on there. Because history tells us if folks are for a sales tax in general, all the items will be passed. I'm just based on what I've seen.
I think that's not accurate completely, but we won't fight about that one in a short time, yes.
Yeah, the last time I remember that being done, in recent 10 or 12 years, was that last bondage thing where they were separate.
What bondage? Not Little Rock.
Wasn't there? There was something we voted separately on.
And it may well have been the bond which would have been allowed, but at any rate,
Well, I know the last bonds weren't done that way. I'm just.
and he may be thinking of the ones before.
Could be.
We are long in service and our memories blur. Just be kinder to ourselves about that. One of the other things that we keep hearing is that there's not enough specifics. And we were learning that this is up on the agenda for Tuesday with information forthcoming. But you really aren't up against your legal deadline until September 5th, 60 days before the election. So can't you give us some time frame to hear the specifics and take them into account and to discuss it with our elected officials before they are voting on the referral to the ballot?
Sure. A few different. Let me make sure all the questions. I may be able to be more efficient with everyone than take questions. That's all the main.
What would be cut from the $500,000 for the number line item 17 on the senior center and pickleball? If you're cutting that in your revised budget, what gets cut out of that is a question.
Okay.
And we're a little puzzled at the timing on the indoor sports complex being added to the downtown master plan after all of the rounds of discussion. After the original draft came out and after the presentation to the board a week ago now, July 2, said it was impossible to count what any of the items would cost. Yet we've had this separately out in the discussion for some time and given a $60 million count, which would indicate that makes everything else take a second-rate position in the downtown master plan. So that seemed to be weighting.
So let me.
The downtown plan, we're puzzled about how that came about.
So
those are the questions.
Sure. First and foremost, I think we can all understand, I can show you several instances in my tenure and then previous administration's tenure. Until you sign on the dotted line on a construction project, all the costs are somewhat in a range. I can tell you right now, we do cost overruns. We're doing cost overruns right now for our City of Little Rock Board of Directors room. We've done a cost overrun for our homeless center. And so what we can do until we get an affirmative from the city board, all we can do is get a range or scale, because just because we talk to someone in January, the market can change in June. And so you're never going to get a finite number, and no one's ever voted on a finite number. Because I can tell you on every particular 2011 sales tax initiative, where things were said it was going to cost X, but they cost more. But you had a general range. And so when someone says there's not enough specifics, we can only give you the specifics based on what we've done and talking to construction folks, architects and things of that nature, based on that point in time that they can give us a number, and assuming, knowing that at a period of time, once we get the sales tax, and even when let's say the city board members vote in August, the number we're quoting in August, and by the time if and when it's passed by residents in November, and by the time you sign contracts with the construction workers, the architects and things of that nature, a project that we may have told you is $60 million, maybe 63, 65. So you're never going to get a finite number. So anyone thinks that's not being realistic. But we can give you a strong guesstimate on what we've seen in the market today. And so what you see in the market today, all of those numbers have been vetted by architects, engineers, construction folks as it relates to construction. things of that nature. And so there's not much more detail that can come from that. So when I hear that, when we have pages upon pages of detail, even City Director Kathy Webb sent 50 questions, and within 3 days we gave those answers that one would think was already, understood, but everybody, and she was getting those from other residents, so we want to make sure. Just like when you asked me
What you said is not what I heard, classic challenge.
Excuse me?
What you said is not what I heard, it's a classic challenge to continue affirming and verifying the exchange of detail.
Cool. But what I'm sharing with you, the detail isn't changed. Sometimes it's a message, not a messenger. But we're sharing the same information. I don't know any more detail. We can't share any more detail until we get an affirmative for the city board. For instance, we can't go start looking for land. We can look for land today, but really affirmative look for land for real estate until we get affirmative from the city board saying, hey, the city board says we're going to go towards the people of Little Rock and do this. And so then we can engage contractually, engage with realtors to do different things. But what I can tell you, being in the business and seeing it from time, and we're not doing anything different than we've done in 2011 sales tax. I would say there's more information in this sales tax than ever before. That's what these numbers have been vetted, is what I'm sharing. As it relates to the 500,000, I'm pretty certain that if there was 5 pickleball locations in the Senior Citizen Center, we may have cut off one. It's what you would call, who's a contractor in here? Anybody?
Don't think so at the moment.
So if there's a word called value engineering. And value engineering means that you can take a cut of cost, and you just got to get a bit cheaper on a situation. Instead of getting the Middleton Heat and Air HVAC, you may get another version of HVAC.
But we're going to get that wonderful new kitchen.
Yes,
we may lose the pickleball court. We're going to get the kitchen.
Yeah, we're not.
That's kind of what we're questioning.
So I want to assure you, as someone who made the promise about the Senior Citizen Center and found the dollars because of the Biden-Harris administration, that's why it's here. And so we need your vote, because if you all vote no on this, but there's not going to be a full build out of it. We got $3 billion of the American Rescue Plan Act, but we got more money into it. Here, it's not going to be exactly what you want. But we got enough in there to get started with the American Rescue Plan Act if this fails from that standpoint. But to get it, everything the way you want it and others want it, that's how it's going to be from that standpoint. So, just a couple different things. One, based on my understanding, because of election law has changed, it has been, we can't do that. We can't break them up. I will talk to Tom again today, so no need to contact him. I'll call Tom today. If he says yes, I have no issue with putting them all on the ballot. Because if they're all on the ballot,
you feeling confident?
Yes. Well, if it passes, I feel confident. History has shown that if it's on the prevailing side, the taxes on the prevailing side, very seldom there's no item. People aren't going to go. You got to be really mad to pick 2 or 3 of the items that you're going to pick. If there's 12 items, you pick 10 and you don't pick the other 2. But that's fine from that standpoint. That's not an issue from us. But it's my understanding from the city attorney, that's the reason why he's drafted the 5/8, the 3/8. So that's the only thing that'll be on the ballot. And just like in 2011, just like in 2021 of August of 2022, when we redid the renewed Little Rock bond millage, it was only a vote for it. It was 1 vote, yes or no. You didn't see all.
That's true. That's exactly right.
Again, it goes back to election law. It's changed, and so that. But what you do have is from the city board, they vote on their resolution, and as you all know, granted, resolutions aren't binding, but I'm not putting my name on something. I'm not signing something. The city board says that's what we want to do. That's what we're going to do based on that from the resolution standpoint.
The other thing that we're hearing a lot about is streets and drainage don't get enough. And when you look at the revised budget, the parks came down 1% to 46% of the total allotment, and public infrastructure, which is streets and drainage, essentially, went up 2%, and it's at 21%. So what about the relative Parks 46, streets and drainage 21%, balancing or imbalancing.
One thing we have to remember is that if you have that number, because I don't have it in front of me right now.
There you go, Darla.
Right now, part of the public infrastructure standpoint, it's a total of $134 million, right? Not even a year ago, we passed a renewed Little Rock bonds that adds another $80 million. Somewhere, give or take, 80.
So additional resources are coming to streets and drainage.
Yes. Well, because we already got 80.
See, we lost track of that.
Yeah, I think that's what we all forget sometimes. We just passed $80 million in August of 22. Because I believe the whole renewed Little Rock's bond package was about 160, 170. About 70 to 80 million dollars. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but it's a lot of money. About 70 to 80 million dollars, and I can get that for you all. Because we all know we just voted for it.
Yeah, we need to have that email.
Yeah, I'll get that exact. I think it's $80 million. And I'll text that to you tonight. It's a quick text.
I'll text you the question so then you've got it set up to answer.
Yeah, because you get pretty much the answer for me within a day. Is that correct?
Well,
Not
call it
every
3 days
3
anyway.
days, all right.
How about I credit you with 3 days?
All right. Thank you. Y'all can tell how much we love each other. Seriously though, so that was $80 billion in August of 22. We're adding another $134 million. So that's whatever. Actually, that's more than that. Whatever the number
Well,
is.
that's why we want the email to get it
Yeah.
down.
So that's basically
Pitch.
$200+ million that's going towards streets and drainage. And then on top of that is, I think at least we not forget the difference between what we voted on in August of 22, that's going to sunset in 10 years. So we're going to come back, which we've done since the 1950s. We ask you every 10 years for that. But this money is going to stay with us in perpetuity, meaning that we're going to have a dedicated infrastructure fund forever, irrespective of my administration, any other administration after me, and I think we can't lose that. And because if this doesn't pass, we're doing patchwork. We're doing patchwork today because the 21 sales tax didn't pass. Thank God for the Biden-Harris administration, because if we didn't have federal dollars, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years would not have happened. So I'm not trying to paint a doom and gloom picture, but let's not play around and not reinvest in ourselves. So that's on that end, and it goes back. Why is there so much money on parks? No one asked that question, but that could be a question. Well, the parks budget has not seen a significant. The first time the parks budget saw a significant increase in its parks maintenance budget was last year for a resounding $500,000. And it has not seen an increase in its budget for 20 years. And so there's a term that engineers use, like I said, first of all, when you want to be efficient and cheap, you call it value engineering. When you want to talk about how it's time to buy something new, but you may not have the money for it, it's called deferred maintenance. We got 20 years of deferred maintenance. I didn't decide to build, Director Miller didn't decide to build 63 parks in the city of Little Rock, but we got 63 parks. And guess what has changed over 20 years? The cost to maintain those parks. We're using 1980s dollars, really late 1980s dollars in 2024. So,
Any other questions, folks?
Well, I don't have a question, but I think one of the meetings I was at, you were conducting, the thing that struck me perhaps the most was when John Honeywell got up and said, 10 years ago, a mile of pavement cost $130,000 or something. It's now $350,000 a mile. So that is just one indication of what it has cost. I know my association had to raise dues last year because 20 years after we were founded, our dollar was worth 37 cents.
Yeah.
So, this is all part of that. Inflation, now, normal inflation is not what we've had in recent time, but usually it's 2 to But that just struck me as one of the most important statements that was made in that meeting, so.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about parks, I think one of the recommendations in the downtown master plan was the problem with Public Works having certain responsibilities for trails, and then you have Parks and Recreation being responsible for parks, but there's a trail inside a park that's Public Works. That makes it confusing. In part of the sales tax proposal where you're increasing money for parks, would that be something that you would look into, to dividing out so that it's not so confusing on who's responsible for a trail that runs through a park?
Yes, we're gonna have a trails maintenance team in general, and we're talking through who's that gonna be responsible, and like there's gonna be parks, and when it gets into the public infrastructure standpoint, they'll call on for assistance, Public Works, but we need someone to just be the one dedicated. There's a reason why they're split today, but as we have a greater focus on parks and trails, that's what we're going to do. So a lot of the recommendations, to the extent possible, because the city board and we paid for it, you all paid for it. We approved 744. They gave us, we're going to do our level best to accept as many of those recommendations as possible. That's feasible. Some stuff may not be feasible, but that's one that we plan to do.
Good. Anything else, folks? You want to press a question or a policy?
And going back to the time, at the end of the day, everything's up. I, as the mayor and the leader, have to provide the vision and the runway. The city board has to put the gas in the tank. And so it's on the agenda for tomorrow, I guess Tuesday. We're hoping for a vote.
But you've got forthcoming information listed on the website today, and it strikes us as very hasty. When you look at the agenda that's posted today, it's got information forthcoming, and that's such a major decision that people would be given something and then told, oh, you don't get any time to consider it, not even overnight maybe, you just need to give me a yes vote. That strikes us as hasty, and it strikes us we've got some time allowance. We could delay that until a later time.
Ms. Wells, you know that's not the first time. That's not I'm trying to figure out how to say it best.
You have a lot of forthcomings over the years.
There's no new information that you're going to see on that. Our city attorney has to complete the document. That's all. And when I say really complete the document, he's transcribing a spreadsheet into ordinance form, and it takes time to take a spreadsheet. That's all. I mean, there's nothing new. You're going to see
no new info.
There's no new info.
That's what we need to know about.
All he did was he said, "Hey, I don't have it ready to get out to the city board members on Friday. Let me put the ballot out." And that happens. That's not.
Yeah, Tom's real slow sometimes.
I did not say that. He is not.
No, but we have observed that.
Tom is a great lawyer.
Thorough and slow.
So, but what I'm sharing with you all, there's no.
That's useful information.
Yeah, the 5/8 cent. You can go look at the 2011 sales tax, which is online, where it has a 5/8 and a 3/8. It's going to look exactly like that. What our city attorney's office is doing is taking these 44 lines in a spreadsheet and putting it into whereas. And that takes time when you take a spreadsheet, you try and convert it to Word and do it in the way that we do it, but there's nothing new.
Well, that is so useful to know. Thank you very much.
I have a question. Well, stating that there's no changes, is there any way the website could say, no changes made, waiting on proper document?
We can do that.
Yeah, that way it won't confuse anyone.
That would be clarification that would be useful on this issue this time around.
We'll just say,
language forthcoming instead of.
But no new changes.
Yeah, we'll say language forthcoming, no new changes.
Yeah.
Taking a note.
Unchanged something, yeah. Because we have been trained, at least at this table, to go look at that website and look at those agendas.
Please do.
So, in fact, I will brag on myself, we shouldn't. I was reading that a week ago, and there was one of these items.
Say language, we'll say that like exactly like this, language forthcoming period.
Legal language for ordinance.
Yeah.
Legal ordinance language.
No new information.
Yeah. I was reading through this faithfully, and there was one of those items that trips up so many folks between SIT and SIGHT, and it was wrong in the context, and I called up the clerk and said, you might want to change that. I'm sorry, no, that wasn't it. It was metal, MEDAL instead of METAL. And clearly, very different things. So we're the faithful readers of your documents.
I got an answer for you already.
Okay.
On the Senior Citizen Center, the $500,000 cut comes from the 38s on the operations side. It would we'll make it up by using current budget and staff from the center, which he's currently working to reclassify. So it's not going to have anything to do with the
what you build.
Construct what we build.
It's what you're going to be running operations.
Right.
Thank you very much. Glad to get that detail.
Yeah.
Apparently a keen interest in that little thing.
Yeah. So it's not going to change the build, it's just going to change how we operate the build. So we'll just use some additional staff that we currently have on the other books.
Okay.
Arcade days of operation.
Excuse me? No, it will not. We're going to increase days of operation.
Oh, that's good to know. We kind of like that thing. We're grading at this table.
But we'll be out of there. We'll be out of there by August 6th. That's the goal.
You mean on the board operation? I mean the board of directors meetings?
Yeah.
Well, goodness, that's gone on a long time. You keep on finding uglies, don't you?
Cost overrun.
Yeah.
We told you all it was going to cost X dollars.
Good example there. Good example there. Anything from anyone else?
What I would love is, first off, we've been going back to let's not our memory forget, like I was talking about August 22nd. We've been talking about this since 2021. The first sales tax that failed horribly had a lot of these items, had some extra bold items like early childhood education, things of that nature. We took that off. We're solely focusing on the 4 Ps, which include public safety, public infrastructure, parks and recreation, and Little Rock Port economic development. I won't regurgitate the presentation because you all went to the presentation, which I'm grateful. But one of the things that this plan comes from, I want to be to give credit. In this business, it's sometimes best not to reinvent the wheel when you see a good thing happen. This plan mirrored and quilted with Little Rock feedback and Little Rock vision from the city board and myself demonstrates the MAPS program of Oklahoma City, which they now have 5 iterations. If you recall, in the mid-90s, Oklahoma City, their city and their downtown looked nothing like it looks today. And it's because the residents of Oklahoma City decided to invest in themselves. You remember, it was right after the bombing and things of that nature, and it was just dismal. And they decided to reinvest in themselves. Fortunately, we don't have a dismal action like that. We have a city we're the largest, most vibrant, most diverse city in the state, a small state, and we have all of the bones and the tentacles of what other mid-sized and large cities have. It's just gotten outdated. And it's time to have a resurgence. It's time to reinvest in ourselves, to take our city to the future. And the playbook of what we've seen in Oklahoma City that's now happened 5 times over is what we see today. And the choice on November 5th is, do we want to invest in ourselves or not? Because if we lose the very thing that you all have concerns about, and if we don't have a president that's going to focus on cities like our current president has, we're not going to have federal government backstop. So we cannot play around. We cannot afford to lose this. If there's something additional you want to know, Mrs. Well knows that I will get to her in 3 days or less.
That's right. You asked me and we'll get the answer.
Yeah, you'll get it.
If I may, that was a wonderful summary there. But I realized there's one other little question that goes back to the downtown plan, and that was, we noticed there was nothing in the plan that straightforwardly said, there will be a public easement so that there is a continuous public access to the riverfront, to the riverbank, the length of this downtown area. Now, obviously, your park assures that, but you've got real plans to redevelop on both the east and the west ends of that. And one of the things that is a concern, of course, is that some private developer doesn't get the chance to cut off the public or charge a great deal for public access to the riverbank through their particular property. Can we ask for an ongoing public access the length of the river?
I'm not prepared. I don't know. I'm not prepared.
Take that into consideration.
Because that's a new question for me. I want to do whatever possible, and I know Director Miller and the city board wants to do whatever possible to make sure that we keep the river area open and hope to recreationalize it as best we can in dealing with the Corps of Engineers. So I don't see an issue with that, but I need to get with our...
Nobody just wrote it down and said that's going to become part of let's call it every city development permit that comes down,
Right.
is that there will be
Yeah.
that.
That was not...
It should be kind of simple, but
Yeah.
you got to think to do it.
Yeah.
Leave it in you with
Could you
it.
put that, send me a text message
I will send you a message.
so I can track that?
All righty.
All that being said is, please encourage your city board members, which I believe they will, to vote yes to take it to the ballot, but more importantly, when it gets to the ballot. And we have a 70-day deadline. We have to have it to the Pulaski County Courthouse for Pulaski County. So it may be 60 days, but for Pulaski County and their election law, but they changed.
Well, that's what we need to get educated on.
It's 70 days, not 60. So we got to have it to them by August the 26th. And so the last conceivable board meeting day that we can do it is August the 20th. Now, clearly I can call a special meeting and we do it on August 25th. But we can't wait to that, because at the end of the day, while all of us at the table know about the sales tax, everyday Little Rockians do not. And so they may have heard about it, but they don't know the detail. And that's part of the reason for you all as leaders to tell your members of your associations, for them to tell their family members, and it kind of has this downstream ripple effect. But even with that, there's still going to need to be an educational campaign on social media, on the radio, on TV, direct mail, to get the word out, particularly in the midst of a November election that's going to have a whole lot of noise. I'm trying to make certain I don't say too many things, but it's going to have a whole lot of noise. And so that being said, every day that we bump up against August the 26th, that's time we could have spent telling someone who's not paying attention to the City of Little Rock board meetings at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock on Tuesday. Or for those who don't have a subscription to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Which is plenty.
Oh, you said that, not me. And
And
so,
plenty don't even have
people
computers
just,
to get out into the
people-
world for this info.
Yeah.
We
So
are
it's-
very keenly aware
it has
that
to be
our
multiple.
neighborhoods have plenty of folks without a computer.
Because everybody doesn't read the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Everybody doesn't read the Arkansas Times. Everybody doesn't read general cable TV. Everybody has their own influence on how they get their news. And so we got to understand that the traditional modes that we may use, that the broader public is not doing it. I say that to say is we got to get on the ballot pretty quickly so we can start off the education campaign. And then finally, please, I'm asking each of you, I'm asking the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods as well to endorse this. You all matter. Mrs. Wells matters. All of you all matter. And so we need your support, because what I do know is going to happen is, if it fails, your questions, your concerns, your complaints aren't going to stop. But give us something. Help us help you. We've done a lot with less. We want to do more for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
If anybody has questions, everybody has my cell phone number, right? If they don't, Ms. Wells has it.
That's true.
Yeah,
I do.
Many of y'all may have the bat phone. You have the work phone. Whatever one, I got both of them. So.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome to have that if you think it's useful and you're running around otherwise.
No.
I will take it back.
Besides sales tax, any other questions? want to give a kudos to, we've been able to do a lot of great work with Director Miller in the field of affordable housing. It's such a great thing to have another banker. There's actually 3 bankers on the city board. Oh, I'm a former banker, but Director Miller and Director Lewis. And so the city just recently eclipsed our 100 home initiative that we set forth in 22. We had 100 homes with a goal. We completed that. We eclipsed it with 154. Last month during National Home Ownership Month, we're grateful for City Director Virgil Miller and others who approved our federal funds. Just because we got federal dollars don't mean we can spend it without the city board's approval. And so we're going to do another goal of 200 homes. We just recently had Pathways to Prosperity convene of all of the local banks in the city to figure out how we can create a housing trust fund to move.
Very interesting concept for the city to go forward.
Yeah, there are other
Since it's
cities.
stalled at the state level.
Right, and so that's what we got to do things at the city level that the state may not do. And so we got about 10, depending on who you talk to, Affordable had 10,000 opportunities to focus on affordable homes, and we want to take that to scale. So I want to thank City Director Miller and his leadership as well, and being very
Could you
supportive.
define housing trust fund for us, please?
So essentially, a bank of funding to purchase land, lay infrastructure, and work and build homes. Right now, what we do is we
That are affordable.
That are affordable, based on the CRA or the FH. I can't remember the acronym.
There's the HUD
HUD
standard for
standard.
income
HUD
that makes so-and-so eligible to buy. And
For
then
low
this will
moderate
be
income.
sold in the market to Kathy and Susie and Sammy and Frederick, who are eligible by
Yes,
income.
yes, by income.
So you're basically jump-starting
We're
the home
asking
building.
we're asking banks to jump in the federal money that we already have, and also part of the sales tax is $10 million in it, so we can take it to scale. But we're saying, hey, banks, we know you have to comply to certain federal
Community
Reinvestment
development,
Act
yes.
standards. Give us, X billion dollars to put in this fund, and we all work together to do more.
So is it a revolving fund, basically?
Well, if they continue to, it could be a revolving fund. if
What
they
happens
continue to invest
when you sell that house to Kathy, who's affordable?
She keeps it's hers.
No, but what do you do with the money? If I'm buying a house, the city gets the money back. So that's why the revolving fund works.
Yes, it could be that. You're talking about with the property.
Yeah.
And those are things we got to work out because of the legal stuff. And some of it may have to go to the bank. You never know what that is. Each city that's done it has a difference. Some cities have an agreement with those banks and say, hey, if you give this initial investment, any profit we make for it goes back into the fund, and you keep doing it for it. So there lies.
Revolving fund seems to be a very appealing model.
Noted and heard.
Yeah. The banks can get a little off the top, but let's not let them have all of it. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'll be working with Director Miller to figure out the fine tuning of that.
Thank you.
Sounds like he'll probably be on the Housing Trust Fund board.
I'm guessing that's in his future too. In his future too.
No doubt. I mean, we certainly have different initiatives, certainly with our land bank, when we acquire property, we sell it. But certainly one feature of a trust fund would be the city buying up property and keeping those properties to make sure that they would be developed for affordable housing.
Gentrification is a very real concern. That is very good news.
So it is something that I know our friends at ACO talk about a lot. Why doesn't the city be aggressive about a land trust? Of course, you buy a property, say in Petaway, that's less property that the for-profit developer is going to have, but it also helps us to stop gentrification as much as possible. So I like the idea of a land trust. I'm sure some of our private developers will have questions about it because it takes away land that they could probably buy and put for market rate homes on. But If we're going to make sure that housing is affordable for all our residents, make sure that communities aren't completely gentrified, this is one way to do it.
And to add on, Director Bill, if anyone asks when they talk about the sales tax and also talk about this, you know, this sales tax is a crime reduction strategy. The reason why I say that is the best way to prevent crime is for someone to have a job, for our youth and young adults to have something to do, i.e. the parks, and for our people to have places to live. When you have those things, you are less likely to commit a crime. I'm not saying you're not going to commit a crime, because we all got folks who will still commit a crime, but it makes it you're going to think about whether or not you commit a crime if you got a job to lose, you got a home to lose, and you don't have anything to do.
It would also help if we could get a handle on pick-pack liquor on West 12th. A
Director
recurring problem.
Director Miller's working on that along with me, so.
Sorry, I couldn't resist the shot.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I trust everybody got the questions in. Robert?
No.
Thank you for working us into the schedule.
We're still a small city, but we're the largest city in Arkansas and city. But our legislature split us between two representatives to dilute the.
Oh, we're not going there. I'm sorry. We aren't going there. We have local concerns that we need to pursue, and that's not going to be in our wheelhouse. Thank you so much.
You kept on bringing up how much federal money is helping us, and I thought, okay, how come our representatives never vote for a thing for us in Little Rock? And it's partly because our vote is diluted.
What other issues are folks working on and that you hear about in your neighborhoods and your networks? Oh, those.
Renovation. Improvements. All the time in our neighborhood.
You're seeing renovations occur. There's certainly a lot visible in the Petaway neighborhood today. When you go by, they've even got some press recently, which is good news. And there's always the question about the new properties going on the tax books and affecting the long-term residents who've been worried about whether they can come up with the increased taxes. At this point, let me remind you of something that I put out a couple of weeks ago, because so many of these residents are not only are long-term, but they're senior citizens, and we do have 2 tax breaks for senior citizens. And you please do what you can to make sure that you pass on the information that was in that email, and that is you go to the assessor's office and you tell them that you're 65 and they freeze your taxes. So you don't have to worry about your taxes going up because somebody built a really fancy house across the street from you when you're 65. And the other thing is, assuming this is your primary residence, which it's going to be in these cases, there is something called the homestead tax credit. And in fact, the last session of the legislature just increased that. I believe the number is $425, but I did send that out to you. So please circulate that information to your network, because that is a reduced tax check to be written to the county. Yes, Robert?
The increase, I think, was only $50,
from the old to the new?
Yeah, from the old.
I don't remember what it was. That's why I got that written down.
It was $375 to $425.
$375 to $425.
And I don't think that freezing the taxes actually applies. I think they can still go up. I think so, but.
No, your assessment may go up, but your tax bill remains the same. I'm sure about that because I'm watching that and I benefit from that one.
Yeah, the way I understand it, your assessment does.
The assessment numbers go up and
Do
up
not
and they
go-
report that to you.
Does not go up. You continue to be taxed on the same value, but the
That you
the
froze it
tax
at. It's a
rate
freezing.
could change.
Yeah.
Right. And the legislature cut the income tax rates for the people making the most money, like over
Yes, they
$90,000
did.
a year, which means every member of the House The whole legislature should be voted out of office. Anybody with any sense
Oh, now,
should
come on,
know
Robert,
that.
that is not the topic at this table.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate the sentiment, but that is not the topic at this table. But when we are dealing with gentrification issues, those are two very valuable numbers to continue to know about and to talk about, and to make sure that folks in your network know about.
And it is surprising the number of people that aren't even aware of either of those two. I did put that out in my network, and I got
A lot
calls
of
back,
response.
And it's like, where did this come from? But it's surprising. It's a value.
And this is a very long-standing policy in the state.
Yeah.
This is not new, as they say. The particular numbers about the allowance for the homestead are new.
Yes.
But they've been freezing for 65 and over for long and years.
Not that any of us is 65 or older.
Oh, I certainly am, and claim it zippy quick. What other topics?
Yeah, I was going to add to the mayor's list of how to make a safer city, and I think a lot of it is the ability to get to places. So we could have the best parks, we could have the best job opportunities, but if someone's not able to physically get to those places in a safe and affordable way, then
And nothing in the sales tax package has anything to do with the buses system.
there's no
Or
transit.
transit of any kind.
There's no transit. It's good to see that there's pedestrian and bike infrastructure, but yeah, transit would definitely be something to continue the conversation about. And then street safety. I don't know if you all are aware, but Little Rock has moved up on the list of most dangerous places for pedestrians. We went from 17 or 18, now we're number 10, which is a huge problem.
Who did that?
So that was put out by Dangerous by Design, Smart Growth America. They do a national study every few years.
Do they actually physically come to?
I'm not sure how they get their numbers, but I could share the link
That
with
would
you
be
all.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, share the number with us. I saw that story, and I think I didn't slow down enough to pass it on. So if you'll send it to me, I will circulate it out to folks.
Sure.
Yeah, but this is a national thing too.
This is a
It
national-
is happening everywhere, ever since the pandemic.
It is, but we're,
Pedestrian injuries or deaths have increased exponentially from before the pandemic.
That's because everybody got wired into their cell phone and were taking the standard classic precautions. In fact, I was going to ask the next obvious question on that one, Chloe.
yeah.
What category? Is it the fact that someone is being a pedestrian hit when they're crossing the street, or something else?
So I haven't gone, I think there definitely are nuances, but I just know just overall pedestrian safety is not good. But I can look into the details.
It's probably in the story that they have, and
Yeah.
you just need to point out whatever that is.
What I've been sharing is just the graph where they've researched over 100 metro areas across the country, and we're at the top. So, yeah.
Well, the reason I jumped up and I lit up is over the years, we have gone to the city and go through the processes that we need to go through, as they suggest, to get funds for increasing and also building and making better the streets and sidewalks. I mean, we used to have ditches in our neighborhood, all of them, except for my one street. Now we have sidewalks, we have pavements, all of that, which didn't exist 10 years ago. Right, our neighborhood also includes the children's library. Is it one end of it?
You're fortunate in that the new construction has turned their attention to the linkages so that people can walk to the children's library instead of following the damn ditch.
Right.
So they can go to the 12th Street station and go deal with the police, which now includes the cafe and the bank on the ground floor in retail outlets. So that generates more traffic.
Yeah, well, we have sidewalks now everywhere, walkable.
Yeah.
And new post with lighting.
Yeah, lighting's great, crosswalks are great, signage.
And it took time, you know, we had to really work on it and get the city involved with that.
Chloe, do you have any update on the intersection that was the topic of that pop-up testing for a four-way stop on East 17th and Commerce? Thank you.
Yeah, I talked
William
to
Blank.
John Honeywell today, or not today, this week, and he mentioned that he's going to, again, remind his team that he did approve getting permanent stop signs. And
Four-way stop.
For the four-way stop, and then also, oh my gosh, better quality paint, because I know it's very faded now.
So it's just hanging up in somebody's inbox in Public Works, essentially.
Yeah, but it's gotten a thumbs up, it's just a matter of them going out and doing that.
Has the work started on that redo of Markham and,
The Markham Street Road diet?
yes.
Yeah, John Honeywell also had an update on that at the BACA meeting this week. So they have funding to pay for half of it, and trying to find my notes.
Markham and Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Markham and Kavanaugh. I can also share more details on that. I have exactly where it starts and stops and when it's going to break ground. So.
Oh, just keep us posted if you would be so good. That doesn't seem to be a flow of information that I'm getting.
I need to get you back on my mailing list.
Oh, that's right.
Or you need to sign up because I can't get you.
I thought I had done that, but let me try again.
Okay. But I'm putting out updates. So I do a weekly newsletter giving updates on these sorts of things. So if you all want to also just subscribe and then share out to your network.
I think what happened
we nerd out on this stuff.
that I got dropped from it, this has happened in a couple of instances, is folks will get something forwarded from me. Three examples are the Our Little Rock from Chloe, the Soma posting from that group, and then the Downtown Little Rock Partnership weekly thing. And so I'm sending those out because there are nuggets. In some instances, there's a lot of material that we care about from everything I know. And what happens is somebody will hit that unsubscribe button on the bottom because they don't care about that. And it filters back under my name because I'm the one that forwarded it. So I think technically I'm getting cut out when I do not intend to be cut out.
Gotcha.
So if that happens in future, just say subscribe again or something because somebody did us in.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not skilled at this, but I think it happened and I didn't do it.
Gotcha. Well, the email service I have won't let me add people that have unsubscribed.
That's fine. You can just alert me
Okay.
to do it again. Do it again, Sam, is the final phrase.
And yeah, we have a website, ourlittlerock.org. And you can go on there and you can subscribe to the newsletter.
Is that spelled out or LR? Website.
OurLittlerock.org. And I've also started building out a recent news tab because you can see all of the newsletters. We just sent out our 31st newsletter.
Those are valuable archives.
And so you can go into like the list of the archives, but I've started building out our recent news page because it just makes it more like if there's a topic you care about, they're getting tagged and aggregated. So trying to step it up with
Someone who is skilled in all of this software and internet activity is I am not. I'm very grateful that you're in the civic activism world. Let me just say thank you for your service as the phrase goes. Because it's beyond me. We need all the help we can get getting this information in and then out to citizens and then out to officials.
.org. So we're a 501c3. And yeah, it's all of our homes. So it's just trying to get more people to care about our home and knowing that it's not just the city's responsibility, it's going to be all of us working together. So
It is. And we do have to keep our eye on that classic safer part of it. You all may have heard about the lot of social media blasting against the city and the downtown River Market area as a result of the Conway team who went down there at 2 in the morning to ride scooters at Markham and Scott, right beside the Block 2 lofts in the convention center, and she got shot, which is horrific. The news has missed a couple of things, and I was fortunate enough to get the incident report because I asked for it. I have the 25-page document if anyone is interested in pursuing the detail to the nth degree. But the summary is that this kid was there playing, just about to turn 18. She gets shot. The police happen to be very close by, so they're instantly on the scene and responding. And the group points to the bushes and says, one of the guys that did this is over there. And so they grabbed up someone they haven't arrested because he's more likely to have just been one of that group hangers on. They're all juveniles, so you see no names in the document, which is fine. What you will also discover, which has not been made into the headlines, let's not jump to hurt ourselves with downtown is never safe and don't ever go there again. But they sprayed bullets into a lot of cars, and a couple of bullets went across that intersection into the Chamber of Commerce building. They dug slugs out of the wall of the women's restroom and then through the front door on the back wall.
Who sprayed the bullets?
We have no information because they've made no arrest, and all the people concerned are juveniles.
Did the girl who got shot get killed?
Oh, no. That would be first thing that her sister and her mother would have been putting out on social media. What they are doing is just saying she got hurt and she shouldn't have been and you should never go there. It is true that nobody should get hurt. It's also true that if and I in fact made a facetious remark to the officer that I was talking with, if the officers had enforced the curfew against this under 18 individual, which was enforced, it goes on at 9 o'clock down there in the River Market, then she would have been somewhere else and she would never have gotten shot. You don't want to blame the victim, but it's a point when they're screaming about how unsafe it is that these folks were there after curfew and the cops didn't catch up to them. It was at shift change. And that happens, a lot of unfortunate things happen at shift change because people are out of place. People have taken off their cameras to put them in the charger to download the film for the 8-hour shift they just completed. And it's important from that standpoint to appreciate all of the elements that go into these things, which are nowhere in the media and certainly nowhere in social postings by the aggrieved family. And it's a way to be thinking about what you can recommend to the police to not only be supportive, but be safer and make yourself feel safer. And the obvious thing for me was, I said, well, let me suggest that the police force redouble their efforts against curfew violators and find these kids and get them off the street and get their parents called and send them home. And yes, you're going to now get a whole bunch of outcry against that, but it's the safer way to go. So I just wanted you all to appreciate these challenges that we've got. There's going to be an awful lot of negative remarks against doing anything for downtown because it's worthless, it's useless. You can't do anything when you can't be safe. And that's a good question with a lot of elements to it, just so you know.
What time was it when that?
2 a.m. And you'll see that on the front page of the incident report.
What time is the change over from?
They have we tend to think of the older familiar, which is 3 to 11 and 11 to 7.
Staggered.
But now downtown they have staggered. They have, I was checking into that, they have a large force. And they have also enough that they are having officers come on at 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And then come off shift consequently in the early morning hours. So it's not a wholesale, everybody comes in kiosk there downtown, takes that camera off and hangs up their equipment and goes home.
You know, another thing that we've been asked to consider, certainly with regard to our contract with the scooters, is can you turn those scooters off after midnight?
At closing time.
That's a great idea.
I mean, we'll see about that, but of course, we got a contract with those folks now.
Yeah, but they're all
in the city.
computerized, so why couldn't you?
And we'll see about that, but when you have teens on scooters 2 a.m. in the morning, some as young as 14 years old. I know when I was growing up, if I'm 14 years old, I don't think I would have been out of the house at that. And I'm not.
It
again,
was a
it's
different
not-
time.
But we're going to look into that. We're going to have take a look at the contract with those scooters. But we're just thinking outside the box of maybe some things we can do. But to have those things shut off at a certain time, you know, there are always consequences to an action. And so we just have to take a look at that. But we're looking at that, and then also the River Market has been taken out of the 12th Street division. As you know,
Set up separately, in fact.
yes, and so it's a separate division in itself, so we can really concentrate more on that. So we're doing some things to try to address that. Of course, all the cameras down there. When you're walking on the River Market, you're being looked at.
And there is video of this crime.
You're being looked at.
So you don't need to take your pictures all the time.
Well, it's all those cameras are hooked up to the real-time crime center. So when you're walking on Clinton Avenue, and I don't know if that makes you feel a certain way, but there's video. We have video.
Good, that's good.
I'm personally a very strong supporter of cameras in the streets. And well-lit streets. The other question to go along with that, Virgil, is do you have the really good street lighting so that the video is capturing good images?
Yeah, we always have to take a look at that.
Yes, Robert?
I know you're gonna say it's beyond local government, but any city with high-rise hotel rooms with a clear view of public events should be acutely aware of the fact that the Supreme Court, in their idiocracy, eliminated something that the last administration banned, and I will gladly give you the telephone numbers of any of our congressional delegation.
What are you
Call them
talking
up
about?
and say ban bump stocks.
Oh, bump stocks. Oh, yes, that is beyond the scope of this work. I'm sorry.
It brought, I mean, with a spray of bullets, it's so easy to convert any firearm now.
It is not
Very
not a good
fast
thing.
firing. But hey, the last administration banned it. I'll give you the numbers of Congress. That's the ones who have to ban it now. Anybody need their number?
I think with that, we're going to say that our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Remember, it's $1 day at the zoo. It's only $1 to see our elephant that we feed every day.
And
Let me know what we should be working on next,
one
folks.
other